Oh, uh-oh. Where are the ad reads? Okay. Cam, you're going to have to cut this out. Okay. This episode of the Golf Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their Pick 8. Sign up with promo code GOLFSGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code GOLFSGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Build your own betting model using their AI betting engine. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Well, welcome, D-Gens. If you heard me doing the ad reads, Boston Capper's not here, but unlike other shows, I actually have a co-pilot tonight. Cameron Kerr, Mr. Outright King himself this year, is joining us. So you're actually going to get some valuable intel about how to actually bet this week from the master himself. Cameron, how you doing?
I'm actually doing great. So I'm traveling this week like I normally am, and usually try and squeeze in some golf, especially in the summer when we get daylight all evening. So got into Tulsa about, I don't know, 2:00. Went to the course that I always go play when I'm here. It's right next to the hotel. So went out, parred the first 4 holes, and I was like, all right, like this is it. Like we're breaking 80. And then double bogey. No, then bogey, then double bogey, then double bogey, and then bogey. And then it was kind of over from there. Still shot an 83. And so that was really good for me. I'm super happy with it because I'm going to be playing golf in College Station this weekend with some of my old college buddies. And then I'm playing the number 1 course in Texas next week, which is actually in East Texas. So you get a little bit of hills, some nice like Augusta Pines kind of feel. And then once I left the course, I like went on my app and checked into my hotel. And I was like, and it was like, congrats, you've been upgraded to the presidential suite. So I'm in the presidential suite of my hotel. And I was like, all right, like this is kind of weird. So I pulled into the hotel, circled back out, went to a casino, and I was like, all right, like I'm riding this. I'm riding this heater that I'm on. And sat down at the blackjack table for like 45 minutes and won $300.
Attaboy.
And I would still be there, but this guy sat down when I was up like, I don't know, I was up $300, whatever. He sat down first hand, put $10 down, and got an 8 dealt to him against a like 3 or a 4, and doubled it. And I was like, all right, last hand, like I can't do this. So got up and walked out with $300. So
there you go.
Very good.
Yep. That is good foresight by you to get up and quit while you're ahead. Cause I mean, like I play, when I go to the casino, I mostly play blackjack, and you just get a feel for the table about how a certain guy is playing. If a new guy comes, you just get that instinct in you that, you know, if you're up right now, take the chips, check your ego, you know, fight another day, be happy you're up, because probably the feng shui of the table is going to turn. Because this guy is splitting sixes and doing all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And he immediately knew, like he played one hand, and I got up. He's like, yeah, he was probably like, that was kind of dumb. And the dealer would like gave me a side eye when I got up, and I was like, yeah.
There you go. Have you ever just decided to be the sacrificial lamb of the table and just, you know, kind of, you know, especially if you're playing with friends or anything? I've done that once.
What do you mean sacrificial lamb?
So basically, like you're just getting killed, but your other friends are doing pretty well at the table. So I just took my beating like a man.
Oh yeah.
Instead of just quitting, because, you know, they would buy me drinks, and, you know, they would you know, do dinner. I was actually at on a work trip with a coworker of mine, and he doesn't play much blackjack. And, you know, he was doing some things that probably aren't by the book, and I was getting punished for a lot of some of the things he was doing, but he was absolutely killing it and up. So I just, you know, kept taking my beating. I was like, you know what, it's only $100, whatever,
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. But
That's why I like blackjack, because it's not like I mean, you can play with your gut, but overall there's like a right and a wrong way to play. And
yeah,
so especially if you're like playing with someone who's never played, and you can like teach them, it's fun to like teach while you're playing, like, hey, this is why you hit here. Hey, we've seen a lot of 10s, like maybe you shouldn't hit that 16 this time, but like, if the count's high, like we can hit, whatever. But yeah, that's definitely my game for sure. I like just sitting by myself in the casino, just playing, $25 hands, and uh, seeing how long I can make it last. But I was just trying to get in and out tonight so I could come back for this.
there you go. And now you got a little bit of a bankroll to add to all the outright wins you've had this year to bet on LIV Golf. Are you excited to do that this week?
Yes, I have been betting LIV Golf. I haven't been watching a whole ton of LIV Golf, but that's just because the PGA Tour golf has been so good this year. I mean, even the John Deere last weekend was pretty fun to watch, mostly because Carson was actually in the mix, and I was rooting for that. And we didn't really get to break that down on the show yet. I'm sure y'all will kind of touch on it. Did you watch it at all?
I mean, not really. I mean, we took the week off
That's right.
for the John Deere, and I was out of town. So that was why I had to record the
Yeah.
Scottish Open preview last Thursday. Actually, on 4th of July, I had to squeeze that in that day because we left on Friday. The internet connection is pretty spotty at my the cottage that I went to. So, and and we had a bunch of little kids running around. It would not have worked. So, unfortunately, I was able to even get a column out to you guys. I apologize for that, but we'll talk about the Scottish Open in about an hour or so. Boston Capper had a little bit of scheduling conflict, so we're actually doing the live show right now. But before we get to Valderrama and LIV Andalucia, let's actually promote a bunch of other shows on our network. We're not just the only good show on the SGPN. There's a lot of really great content that we have available for you on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Moon Off the Machine, Manje, and Chris are getting their read for the NFL season on the Propcast podcast. They get every episode dedicated to season-long props and the awards market. Also, you can check out CJ Sullivan on Bottom Line Bombs and his road to $10 million. And he's also a pretty good avid golf gambler. Hit Bryson at the US Open, that lucky fucking bastard. But you know what? Good on him. And tune in wherever you can get your podcasts or the SGPN app for all the great content we have on our network. All right. Let's go to Valderrama. So, Cam, do you know much about Valderrama, where they're playing this week?
No, I do remember they did play here last year, right?
They did.
Okay, I remember that. I think I watched some of it, but don't remember a whole lot. So fill me in.
Okay. All right. Well, let's first bring up the golf course. And this is Valderrama. This was built in 1974 on the Soto Grande Resort in Andalucia, Spain. Basically, this is in southern Spain. It's near Gibraltar, actually.
Oh, it's in Spain.
Yes.
So I'm not even going to be able to watch it. It's going to be in a different time, a weird time zone. How are
you going to be able to watch the Scottish? It's going to be in the same time zone as that.
True.
You have to get up early.
I should just pull a Matt Gannon and go to Scotland.
You probably should. Well, I mean, the good news about the shotgun start is that everybody's going to start at the same time. I think last year they started around like 9 a.m. Eastern time, so 8 a.m. Central. So it's not too bad for you. Just put some coffee on the pot there and go watch. And unfortunately, it's going to be conflicting with the Scottish Open. I kind of wish this was last week at the John Deere because I think actually a couple of years ago they went head to head with John Deere and actually they had a pretty good tournament. So, but they are going to Valderrama. This is a Robert Trent Jones, and Robert Trent Jones obviously is a very famous golf architect. If you know a lot about golf architecture, this looks pretty much like a typical Robert Trent Jones. Parklands, tight, narrow, small greens, lots of trees. We'll go over all the trees that are at this golf course in a little bit, but other golf courses that Robert Trent Jones has built. Bellerive, which was the site of the 2018 PGA Championship. You got the South Course at Firestone. That was the WGC Bridgestone that was played for years there in Akron. Hazeltine, say the 2016 Ryder Cup and the 2009 PGA. Port Royal Golf Course, that's the Bermuda Championship. And Spyglass Hill, which I think actually this golf course reminds me the most about Spyglass Hill. Both of them are pretty short. Both of them have really tiny greens. I'll actually measure out one of the greens for you in a little bit just to show you how small these targets are. But those are examples of Robert Trent Jones golf courses. This is another one in the collection. And, some of the golf courses that they've been to on LIV, they haven't really hosted a lot of professional tournaments. So we're kind of left guessing about how it plays. But this one actually has a very rich history of professional golf played at the golf course. It was the home of the Volvo Masters on the European Tour for about 2 decades. From 1988 to 2008, notable winners there: Nick Faldo, Colin Montgomery twice, Bernhard Langer twice, Lee Westwood, Miguel Angel Jimenez, Ian Poulter, Justin Rose. So a lot of really proper ball strikers, your typical European types of guys, which, look at the overhead right here. You can see very tight corridors, small targets, obviously a ball striker's paradise. It also once held a couple of WGC events here, the American Express Championships, 1999, won by probably the best ball striker in golf history, Tiger Woods. In 2000, Mike Weir, small hitting, accurate, but really, good ball striker back then. Also hosted the 1997 Ryder Cup. Europe won in a squeaker 14.5, 13.5. It was also the home for 1 year for the Spanish Open. That was won by Beef Johnston. Do you remember Beef Johnston, Cam?
I have no idea who Beef Johnston is.
So this was this British guy back in 2016 who, kind of a chubby fella, had this big beard, really jacked up teeth, but they called him Beef because, he's just kind of a big portly fella. He actually ended up getting an Arby's promotion out of it. And he had a, kind of like a brief run of golf stardom for a little bit. Yeah, he's a fan favorite. So, but he won the Spanish Open there in 2016. But it's most known for the Andalucia Masters, where that had about, I think, 10 or 11 events between 2010 and 2022. Some notable winners there. Graham McDowell, who's on LIV, won in 2010. Sergio Garcia is a 3-time winner of the Andalusia Masters at Valderrama from 2011, 2017, 2018. Christian Bezuidenhout, a guy that Boston Capper says can never win a PGA Tour tournament. Well, he won this tournament. It's a DP World Tour event, but 2019, he won that. John Catlin, who is currently filling in for Charles Howell III on the Crushers, who played really well in Nashville, surprisingly. He also finished, I think, second in some Asian Tour event, I think, couple weeks ago or maybe last week. He won in 2020, the COVID year. And then Matt Fitzpatrick won in 2021. So again, typical ball strikers, good putters, good scramblers. And, it's not really your elite drivers per se. And, I think we'll get into maybe the reasons right now. Why don't you actually zoom in on a couple of these holes? So starting off, let's go to the first hole. Cameron. Let's zoom in from the tee. What do you see on your screen? Just a lot of trees. Really narrow here. Can't even really see the green. It's hidden behind.
Yeah. So do you have to hit it over those trees on the left in order to have a good lie?
So you basically have to, if you're on the right side of this fairway here, you have to hit it over this overhanging tree right here. Just to land on the green. If you want to actually have the best angle into the green, you got to have it on the left. Yeah, that's the thing about this property is it's way overgrown with too many trees. They have to cut down a lot, but I think it's by design. I think they want these tight corridors. I remember John Rahm when he's talking about Colonial with all the trees there. He said that he actually it reminds him of a lot of golf courses in Spain because there's an opportunity to be a little aggressive, go over dog legs and trees. And he specifically mentioned Valderrama. And this is an example of that where, you could be really aggressive and take it over this tree line here and set up a really approach shot, short approach shot. But like if you miss your mark, who knows where it's really clattering around. You're basically punching out at this point. And just there's no way really to bounce the ball up to the green here. It's a really tight opening. It's like Harbor Town on steroids. Jeez. Pretty much. Like Harbor Town's really tight and narrow too. but it's a little more generous and you give it credit for it. This really, there isn't a whole lot of room.
Yeah. Dang.
Let's go to hole number 2. I'm going to call this stupid fucking hole. And there's a lot of stupid fucking holes in this hole. So off the tee here, can't see the green. What you do see is a huge
giant
tree
I love that.
right in the middle of the fairway.
I love that. I
And then
love
you
a
see a
random tree.
big cluster of trees over on the right, the random tree. So that's also like Harbor Town, where they have a tree right in the middle of the fairway there. And then you have a cluster of trees over on the right here that if you miss right, you're dead. You can't get to the green really
because
at
you're
all.
driving at
Yeah, you got to
280
either
and you're
punch
like
out.
almost, yeah.
Yeah, basically, you're basically pulling less than driver here. So you have to hit it over on the left here. That gives you, a pretty good look into the screen. But again, you get some trees over the left here, trees to the right. Like, got to hit it
Wow.
over this. And it's a really, really small target. This is the size of the green right here. So, and I'll actually measure out. This is the third hole right here. I'll measure this green for you on Google Earth. Let's
That's
so
that's elevated too,
let's
huh?
just do a little circle here. It's basically like, yeah, it's slightly elevated as well. So this green is only about 2,400 square feet.
Oh,
Now the greens at Pebble Beach are like 3,500 square feet. So they're even smaller here. Just really
jeez.
small. Like it's almost like playing like a municipal golf course where like
Yeah,
those
I
are
was
really
about
small
to
greens usually too.
I was about to say the
Yeah.
9-hole municipal that I play at in College Station is turtleback greens that are impossible to hit, and that kind of reminds me of
Yep.
those.
Yeah.
And you have if you hit 280, you have a 187 approach too.
No, this is a par 3. So
Oh,
this is the
okay.
this is the third. Yeah, it's 170-yard par 3. You got the fourth hole here. I'm not going to go through every single hole because you basically can get the gist of it through these couple holes. Most of these holes are basically tight, tree line, narrow, not all that long. This is only a 7,000-yard golf course, par 71. There's 3 par 5s on the golf course. The fourth hole here is considered their signature hole. It's called La Cascada. Just not a lot of room on this par 5 really to miss. So you have a really small green. It's 564 yards. You have a bunker over on the left here. Big pond over on the right, though. So you're coming in from, like 200 yards, 220 yards. You're not really, it's if you hit the green in 2, congratulations to you. It's a really difficult feat. When I remember this tournament, most guys kind of laid up to the apron over here and kind of chip back on. So, it's, you think about, some of the guys like who might be a little better with their longer irons. Well, especially, trying to take advantage of par 5s, there just isn't a whole lot of room for them to actually take advantage of it. It can kind of turn to a little bit of an up and down game per se.
So far, it favors faders.
Let's go over to kind of a little bit. I mean, well, this is draw hole number 5 here. You got to draw basically around the corner. But you could take it over these 2 bunkers. Like, look at the sizes. This tiny little green with 3 bunkers all around here, just well protected. So let's go over to, let's see, hole number 11. I just want to show you the screen again. Like, this is an example of how with these par 5s, it's really difficult to take advantage of it because of how the greens are set up. So, fairly straight ahead. You got bunkers probably about every 50 yards or so, starting about 305. But this green,
Oh my god,
the size of this green here.
Holy
Just
cow.
longest like it's like a thumbprint basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all just tight apron here. This is all rough bunkers here. So again, it's definitely reachable for everybody, but it's just such a really small target. Like, you're not hitting the green in regulation most likely. And I'll go through the stats a little later about what these guys are doing. It'll give you kind of clues about who ended up winning and why they won and what you really need to do well. The green and regulation rate is usually pretty low at this tournament. I think at the LIV event, it was about like 52%, which for most LIV events, these guys are usually hitting greens at like 60, 65, 70%. Like they don't really set them up all that tough. Yeah, this is a little bit of a tougher setup. 15, which is actually over here. This is kind of a cool hole. So you're teeing up from a high rise here. Let me zoom in. And you're actually hitting over the tree canopy right in front of you. And this setup kind of reminds me a little bit of the green on 18 at Bay Hill. So here, this is a bunker that's set well below the putting surface, about 6 or 7 feet. So you're trying to get up to the green from here. These bunkers that are on a little ridge, and you're actually trying to hit a bunker shot downhill to a really slick green, which is pretty difficult. So 225 yards, kidney-shaped green here. This is definitely a very difficult hole, especially where you miss it. Like if you don't want to miss left at all, because trying to hit a downhill bunker shot is just very difficult to do.
But I assume you can see the green from the tee box still. Like even
though
it's a
you can. It's not completely circus golf. You can see you can see it from. Actually, I can probably get it. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. You basically, it's these little, you see this alley here, and the trees. This is like it's in a little valley here. So you're hitting over the trees though. So it's it can be kind of cool though. You have 17, which is another par 5. That's going to be your party hole this week. So, but you got a pond short of the green here. This is where all the grandstands and the birdie shack I think is going to be. Again, though, just kind of a difficult approach shot in. You got water shorts. It's a pretty shell green. You got tight lies around it that kind of repel. So, and then the 18th hole just kind of sums up Valderrama in a nutshell. Can't see the green from the tee, really narrow, but does set up a little bit of a longer approach shot into a very small target. So that's Valderrama in a nutshell. Any questions?
Yeah. Are these guys going to want to play this course?
Well, it's a very famous golf course, especially for the Spanish guys. They take a lot of pride in this. There's been a lot of rich history. So yeah, I would probably say winning at Valderrama probably is a little better than winning it at the Grove in Nashville, as far as your lore and legacy. So
yeah, but do these guys care about that? Or do they just care about the check?
I think I think if there is a tournament where these guys would probably care to win at a certain venue. Obviously, the Spanish guys are going to want to, win this thing. It's the same thing like the Australian guys. They took pride in their national championship. There's a lot of guys, Spanish guys in the field, a lot of guys with Spanish heritage, Mexican heritage, etc. It's going to mean something to them. And a lot of these European guys, the guys they looked up to, have won here. Your Montgomerys and Longers and Sevis, and there's a lot of rich European history. So especially for those types of guys, it's going to mean for some. For the American guys, they're probably just looking, maybe they'll get prepped for next week. But I think that's actually, something to maybe keep in mind if you're watching this, is at Troon next week, kind of similar, where it's going to be a lot of just plotting positional golf. You're not hitting driver a ton here. You're not hitting driver a ton. It's going to be a lot of 3-woods and hybrids and irons, just kind of hitting the middle of the fairways and setting up your approach shot. So, while I think there's way too many trees and some of the design tendencies can be a little redundant at Valderrama, it tends to be a little bit the case of Robert Trent Jones design. I think some of the things they're actually asked to do at this tournament probably will translate pretty well for Troon next week. I think it's good. This is actually a better warm up to Troon than the Renaissance Club is going to be. That's really driver heavy. The Renaissance Club is more American links that we'll get to in a little bit. This is more just your proper ball strikers golf course. So I think these guys, similar to how they played Doral before the Masters, I think, pretty difficult golf course, even though you're testing different things. I think they were actually pretty smart to put this a week before the Open, because they're going to get tested with a lot of, similar skill sets. It's going to be mostly about your irons, and especially with the high miss green percentage, how you're scrambling everything. And after we take another ad break, we'll kind of go through the leaderboard last year. We'll go through some other winners and how they did it. And then we'll hit the odds board and we'll try and figure out who to actually bet on for this tournament. But before we get to that, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. So Pick 8 is now live on Underdog Fantasy. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part, you win up to 325 times your original amount. And you can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. So don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Sign up today. Use promo code GOLFSGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit up to $250 in bonus cash. OnGolfFantasy.com, promo code GOLFSGPN. And also Circa Survivors and Circa Millions is back. And it's giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes this year. Of course, Circus contests have no rate. They are one of the best tournaments and contests to enter every single year. Circa Millions pick 5 NFL teams against the spread each week and compete for $6 million or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. And if you don't have your trip booked for Vegas yet before football, the Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go out. Hang out with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sportsbook in the world, August 22nd through the 24th. So don't miss your opportunity to get your chance to add on your hands of millions of dollars. Sign up to Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contests this year. Okay. Let's look at last year's leaderboard. So that's actually the odds board. So last year, you had Taylor Gooch winning. And, this is around where Taylor Gooch is kind of in his heater. So he was really good scrambler, really good putter. But, you would think probably, let me ask you a question.
Do
you think
hold on. Real quick.
Sure.
This might be a dumb question. I'm seeing odds for LIV Andalucia.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yep.
So dumb question, but okay.
Good. Yeah, Data Golf just calls it Valderrama. I call it LIV Valderrama. They call it Andalusia because that's the actual geographic location that they're in.
Okay. I was just making sure.
Don't worry, same thing. So I guess going through that golf course, do you think power hitters probably would have an advantage at Valderrama?
Yeah, I want to say so because we talked about the first couple holes there where if you can hit it, over those trees, or if you can hit it 300, you're going to have a better lie into the green. And then also, I think with the smaller greens, you're also going to favor distance because you can take shorter clubs. Right?
Yeah. So what's weird is at the LIV event last year, other than Taylor Gooch was a shorter hitter. Definitely one of the, he fits the mold better of when we go over the DP World Tour results of more of a shorter guy who just gets hot around the green with the putter, makes a billion putts and, does that. But you got DeChambeau second, who kind of subscribed to the theory right there. We talked a little bit about Pinehurst a couple weeks ago where, actually a longer hitter might have an advantage because you have a higher ball flight in the green. He finished the second. Koepka's third. Patrick Reed, again, that's kind of a classic scrambler putting type, who you would probably think would do well at Valderrama because of a high missed green percentage, really fast, slick bent grass greens. That's what they are this week. But you got Jason Kokrak, pretty big bomber. David Pooh, she's got a lot of length. Cameron Tringali has length. Dustin Johnson, TA. Joaquin Neiman has a lot of length. Sergio, that was a chalk pick last year because, really good ball striker, but a lot of guys with some length in that top 10. So, how they do it? Well, let's look at driving actually first, because trying to look at how they did with driving distance probably isn't all that beneficial. But let me get rid of some screens as we're not using them anymore. Here's the fairway hit percentage of the guys last year, towards the top. So you got Taylor Gooch, hitting 64% of his fairways, third. He ends up winning. Tringali was third, Neiman seventh. But you're not seeing a ton of the contenders of the top as far as they basically did well because they made a bunch of, hit a bunch of fairways. Wasn't really the case. Bryson was, 35th in fairways, said he hit only 47% of his fairways. So yeah, Patrick Reed was 50%, DJ was 50%. Carlos Ortiz, I think, did pretty well that tournament last year, 47%. David Pooch, 40%. So it wasn't really about, your fairway finders per se. So, even though Gooch did, hit a lot of fairways that week, wasn't really about that. But green regulation, though, this is one where clearly the top two guys in the field separate. So let's look at the green regulation rate at this tournament last year. And it's loading. This is a great pocket. Okay. Guys who led the field in green regulation. Bryson DeChambeau, number one, 40 greens hit. Taylor Gooch, 39 greens hit. That is far and above pretty much everybody else. So 10th, they hit 10 more greens than the guy who finished 10th in green regulation rate. That is a huge, huge jump there. Basically, the best iron players on the week separate themselves. You got Neiman, who finished in the top 10, third, Koepka fourth, Tringali fifth. So you got 5 guys right there in the top 5 in green regulation rate who were end up being in the top 10 on the leaderboard. DJ was 8th, Sebastian Munoz 10th, Cam Smith, who was just outside the top 10, he finished 10th in green regulation rate. Patrick Reed 14th, Kokrak 14th, Poulter finished I think T12, he was 14th. Mito also had a good iron week too, relative to the field at least. So makes sense because the guys who, these are really small targets. The guys who basically are hitting the most greens really separate themselves. So if we were looking at a data golf, those charts that have how you separate yourself in the tournament with your strokes gained, probably iron play would be way elevated at this point. We don't have the strokes gain data, but listen, if you hit a lot of greens at this place, you probably gained a lot of strokes on the field with how small these greens are. Okay. And our thing too is how guys actually did around the green. Definitely seemed like the better guys that week were able to be a little more efficient and save strokes and did a little better overall. So, come on. Here we go. All right. So Tringali, first in the field in scrambling by 82%. He finished in the top 10. Sergio second, Bryson third, Patrick Reed fifth, Munoz sixth, DJ ninth, Koepka 11th, Kokrak 12th, Gooch 15th. There's a lot of guys right there who were within the top 12 right there in scrambling percentage, getting up and down, did very well. So again, probably in that little box I showed for the previous shows with how guys separate themselves, I would say probably around the green is probably elevated too. So those are that. But when you look at the Andalucia Masters and the DP World Tour, I can kind of show you because I actually some strokes gain data that you can look at as far as the winners. So let's look at 2022. Let's start there. This is won by Adrian Otagi. And if you look at how he did that from a strokes gain perspective. Okay. So this is player profile page 2022. Gained a ton on the field with the irons, and he just putted his ass off. That was how he won, basically, the Valderrama. 2021, this was run by Fitzpatrick over Minwoo Lee. And only 6 under, by the way. So they can be kind of difficult scoring conditions, especially if the weather is up. Fitzpatrick, he won it basically all around the green and putting. He gained a ton of strokes around the green. Now, the weather was a lot worse and it was a lot tougher. So guys are probably missing the greens at a really huge clip. So it just turned into an up and down game. And he nailed a bunch of putts here too. But that's how he won that tournament. In 2020, that was the year that John Catlin won, who's going to be filling in for the Crushers this week. Let's go up to this. He won it. I think it was a similar story where Yeah, so he was actually no, it was basically a Fitzpatrick clone. He did it with all around the green with his putter. So I mean, he was on kind of a nice little run here. He ended up winning a couple weeks later at the Irish Open, but still, it was basically getting up and down, nailing a bunch of putts. 2019, this was the year that Christian Bezainhoop, perpetual loser, wins it at 10 under. Actually, kind of runs away with the thing. He again won it mostly with around the green and putting. So not as much for the iron play. But then you get to a guy like Sergio Garcia, one of the best ball strikers in history, one of the best iron players. He won this 3 times. I only need to show you the 2018 one, but basically how he won his tournaments at Valderrama was through iron play and like he just putted the lights out that week. So that's kind of what I'm going for this week. Is I'm not really concerned at all about off the tee stuff. Even though the last year's LIV leaderboard suggested that longer players probably have an advantage, I'm not going to be able to predict like how exactly guys are going to do it off the tee. I don't know who's going to pick iron. I don't know who's going to be aggressive. I don't know any of that stuff. So I kind of just compile just a composite index of how guys have been doing just with their irons and putting and around the green, like who can actually have like these big spike weeks. And also at the end of the day too, I think this is one of the more difficult golf courses on LIV. Last year's LIV leaderboard mostly had the best players that season do the best. The cream kind of rose to the top. I kind of expect the same thing this week. So my betting card is not going to be too crazy as far as who I'm going to bet outright. It's probably just going to be that. So, you got any questions before we get to the outright board?
I don't think so. I mean, you did a really good job explaining that. I think I definitely I'm over here like really thinking about the odds board now. So let's jump into it.
Okay. Well, before we do that, let's talk about our friends over at Rhythm. If you plan on watching, I don't think they have any LIV props, but they have a lot of Scottish Open props this week. Then you need to download the Rhythm. Rhythm's golf features make it easier than ever to find the best betting opportunities for the Scottish Open by letting users create custom betting models and instantly see bet recommendations for outright winners, top 5, top 10, and top 20 finishers. Rhythm presents these bet recommendations in a menu-like format, making it easy to see where your models agree and helping you feel confident in your betting decisions. Rhythm also features an AI caddy, which gives you bettors a chance to see every single golfer in the field's simulated performance thanks to Rhythm's powerful AI algorithm. And you can use this to find huge plus money betting opportunities throughout every single tournament. Rhythm is the ultimate golf betting DFS companion. Download now and start a free 7-day trial and bet smarter on the Genesis Scottish Open. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Cameron, let's go to the odds board here. So I'll just sort it by DraftKings, but you can see, Bet Online, Bet 365. We'll just use. Actually, you're a Bovada guy, right?
No, I've switched over to Bet Online recently.
Okay.
They have the best golf odds. Like I don't even have to shop anymore.
They I would say of all the books, just offshore books generally I think probably have the better odds.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of my bets are probably on like Bet Online. I've been with them for years.
So I do bet placements at Bovada because they don't. You do get worse odds, but no dead heat. Whereas on Bet Online you have dead heat, so you do get a little better odds. But I like not having dead heat, so I'll pay a little more.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of my books have no dead heat options, so I am left sweating until the final putt drops to make sure nothing gets chopped. So. Yeah, Bryson at plus 650, playing really good golf right now, played really well in Nashville. John Rahm, who miraculously covered from that weird foot infection, he's 6-1. Obviously, you got the narrative, hometown guy, wants to win it for Spain. Joaquin Niemann, 11-1. Taro Hatton playing really good golf, 11-1. And then Sergio Garcia. These are the top 5 guys in the odds board this week. You can find 16-1 on DraftKings, 12-1 on Bet Online, so it seems like he's getting some action there. Cam, any interest in any of those 5 to bet outright this week?
So what I did before the US Open was Bryson was coming off the heartbreaking loss to Xander at the PGA. I was like, all right, he's going to come out hot. He's going to win this LIV event and then go into the US Open off a win. He did not win that LIV event. So I bet him there, didn't win, went back to him at the US Open, and he won. So I'm laying off of him. I don't trust John Rahm right now. Joaquin is probably 11-1, really is a good number. It looks like Joaquin's probably where I'd go at the top here. And I have some thoughts on Sergio, but I'm going to save that for when we talk about the teams.
Okay. All right. Up at the top here. So I haven't bet anybody. I've only bet one guy for LIV. I'm kind of seeing what might happen. There might be some inclement weather on Friday and possibly Saturday, which might change who I really want to bet as far as if I think it's going to be really difficult conditions as far as hitting greens. Maybe I don't really care about iron play as much because everybody's going to be missing greens. But I'm just trying to think of guys who have gotten just who are red hot with their irons and can make a bunch of putts, kind of like a similar profile as what we saw.
Is that Tyrrell then?
So it's Rahm, who's been putting awesome this year, and the irons have been mostly pretty good. And Tyrrell, although his iron play up until Nashville wasn't all that good, but he has been absolutely awesome around the green with the putter. So
6 strokes last week. That's
it's probably those two. Now you got the narrative street with Rahm. Now the thing is, a Rahm with Valderrama, I think he's got a top 5 here. But I remember a couple years ago, I think this was the year. I think it was 2021, the year he won the U.S. Open. He actually came to this event at 3-1, and he missed the cut by $1 billion. So it doesn't always go great for Rahm here. There's probably going to be some added pressure of winning at Valderrama, in front of the hometown crowd here. So, and maybe, Joaquin Niemann's kind of the same thing. I mean, obviously he's idolized Sergio throughout his career, probably idolized Seve as well. Spanish golfer, well, Chilean golfer, but, Spanish heritage there.
He's got good course history here too, right?
Joaquin Niemann, he's got that top 10 last year at the LIV event. So, 11-1. Do I think he's going to win 3 times on LIV this year? His putter's also kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's a really good bentgrass putter. So maybe that can kind of wake him up a little bit.
Dang, this is tough.
It is tough. I think of these guys, I probably would bet probably Niemann, but I'm not sure.
I think I'm going to lay off Tyrrell kind of for the same reasons that I'm going to lay off of Bryson. Like, I think these guys are focused more on the Open next week. I think. And is Niemann playing?
I actually don't know if Niemann's actually in the open field.
Yeah, if he's not, then I might bet Joaquin.
Okay.
But you said he's already won twice this year.
So he's won twice this year, played pretty well in Nashville. He gained 7 strokes in the field. I think, he finished like top 10. He's actually kind of been a top 10 machine. So maybe that's actually, he finished third. So, you can get, if you got bet 365 minus 110 for Joaquin Niemann for a top 10.
Oh, but he shot a 1 under, 2 under, and then a 9 under. He just went nuclear on Sunday.
I mean, sometimes that happens with LIV. So, but he's been a top 10 machine this year on LIV. So I don't know. Maybe that's a route to go with. Maybe that's my route with him if I don't want to just grab 11-1 on the outright with him. So
yeah, I don't see any. Here's LIV Golf. Maybe. No, I don't see. I only have matchups. I don't have any top 10 prices.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll save your Sergio thoughts. Let me just talk about teams in a little bit. Moving down the odds board here, you got defending champion Taylor Gooch. You find best odds about 22-1 on Bet Online. Then you got Cam Smith at about 20-1, 18-1. Oosthuizen, between 20 and 25-1. Carlos Ortiz playing really good golf right now on LIV. He's about 22-20-1. Brooks, who's kind of really coasting lately in general, He's 18 to 22 to 1. Patrick Reed, who's been kind of disappointing this year on LIV, but I think he played a couple of European Tour tournaments lately, hit the ball pretty well at least. He has a top 10 here. He's definitely somebody who can get up and down and nail a bunch of putts. He got in the mix of Houston. So he's like 25 to 1. Dean Burmester has been playing pretty well on LIV. Abe Answer playing really solid golf overall on LIV. You got old man Dick Bland, Paul Casey, Sebastian Munoz. We got a bunch of names down here. Even DJ, who is just cashing checks at this point. He's basically given up.
Speaking of cashing checks, is that what Phil's doing?
I think just Father Time is caught up. Remember when he was trying to quote unquote hit bombs, and he was hitting pretty big driving distances, and he's keeping up with everybody. I mean, he's one of the shorter hitters on LIV now. I think he just doesn't have it anymore.
Okay.
So, the man's 52.
When you went through some comp courses, that's one thing that stood out to me, because back in 2020, Phil was finishing. I mean, he finished like third at Pebble Beach, did well at Spyglass Hill, like all those courses you kind of compared this one to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think I would bet him outright, but I don't know if his course history on like last year at this course was even any good. So I wanted to ask you about him too.
Okay. So the first guy I bet, you actually see it highlighted here. I bet Cam Smith 20 to 1. And just looking at how like Fitzpatrick did it, and Bazane, and a couple other guys that just got absolutely nuclear around the green, just made a bunch of putts. I mean, Cam Smith can definitely do that. The biggest concern about Cam Smith for me is obviously with the driver that's taken out of his hands more at this golf course than other venues. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of how he did pretty well at Hong Kong and Singapore. You're using a lot of lesson driver off the tee. So, he did pretty well at those tournaments. I think on Friday, they're going to get a little bit of bad weather. So that's going to make ball striking conditions really difficult, trying to get up and down. So I think that plays in his favor. I bet Cam Smith 20 to 1. I thought that was a pretty good price. And honestly, I got my eye on him based on how he does this week, because, you can say similar things about Troon next week, where you're not hitting driver a ton. Stenson and Phil just putt the lights out and run away from everybody. Justin Leonard putt his way to an Open Championship at Troon as well. You can definitely get hot with a flat stick at Troon. That's somebody maybe I'm going to be having an eye on for the Open next week, and maybe he can do pretty well this week at LIV Valderrama. What do you think about that pick?
I like it. I don't think he's one of those guys that that's the reason I'm not going to look at Brooks at all, is because I think he's looking ahead. I don't think Cam Smith really looks ahead at anything. Like, he seems like the kind of guy that is just like out there playing golf every week, doesn't really care. Like, he's gonna try. If he's in the mix, like he's gonna try to win here. So I like it.
Okay. I'm considering betting Louis as well. That's a guy who hasn't been all that great off the tee this year, but he's shown some pretty peak performances with the irons, really good putter as well. So he played last year Valderrama, didn't go so great, but he wasn't really in good form. He's in a lot better form now. Doesn't have a ton of Valderrama history behind him though. But I mean, near to Taylor Gooch or Bryson, and they finished 1-2. But considering just kind of what I'm looking for as far as that skill set, as far as just, I could see him being one of the leaders in green regulations hits this year, one of the leaders in strokes gained putting, getting up and down.
Has he won this year?
He's finished. I mean, he's done his typical Louis stuff where I think he has 3 runner-up finishes, but he won twice in the DP World Tour last fall. So he still can win. Second at Jeddah. Yep. Second at Hong Kong or Singapore, and I had an outright bet on him that week. So it's been that type of season for me. Even on LIV, it's been a lot of runner-up finishes. But yeah, he's been close a couple times. He had that weird withdrawal a couple of weeks ago for the neck injury. He played okay in Nashville. He's had a couple of weeks off, so maybe he's well rested. Considering him, considering Patrick Reed, Just kind of, he's at least kind of keeping his game sharp, playing the last couple of weeks. A lot of these guys have been sitting around. He's hitting the ball at least all right. That's a guy who, there's going to be a lot of, short to mid irons at this place. He has a top 5 finish here last year. He hasn't won yet on LIV. He's not playing next week at the Open. So, that kind of fits your narrative straight about, if you don't want guys playing the Open, maybe looking ahead. Patrick Reed isn't playing next week. He came close to winning in Houston, so he can get in the mix still. That's guy I got my eye on, I guess.
All right.
Anybody else in this range you're thinking about maybe betting?
Maybe Abe Answer.
Okay. He's kind of cooled off a little bit, but I get it with him.
Yeah, but honestly, Steve, like the bulk of my knowledge about golf, as you know, since like I've started working with you guys, has been 2020 on. So like a lot of these guys, like I'm just not super familiar with.
Okay. I think the only other guy, because like I said, I think this golf course is just the cream's going to rise to the top. Really difficult ball strikers tournament. The average score last year I think was over a stroke over par. So you had Gooch and Bryson just kind of run away with it. Even the guys in the top kind of separate themselves a lot through iron play. Richard Bland, old man Bland, who just won the senior US Open, won the senior PGA, playing just really good golf over on LIV. Just cranking out a lot of top 20 finishes.
He just won it. It was like a couple weeks ago.
He just won the senior event. Yeah, he just won the senior event. So, you got to pay a lot of juice for a top 20 there for Bland. But, top 10 market plus 240. That might be a little ambitious. But maybe target Richard Bland and maybe a matchup market, or if you want to pay, maybe the minus 135, minus 140, minus 150 for the top 20. I think he's going to play well this week. I think last year he actually played pretty well at Valderrama. I think he had a top 20 finish.
Has Cam Tringale been playing well at all?
No. I bet Cam Tringale he played well at Houston, and then I bet him in Nashville, and he was horrible. So I'm kind of the wrong guy to ask about Tringale, but he played well here last year. I think he's in better form last year though than he was now. He was in the mix in Australia. I think he was in the mix in a couple other tournaments. He's got a good finish in Houston. Nashville went terrible for him.
I was about to say I'm scrolling the Nashville board right now, and I can't even find him. But so did Brooks. Oh, here he is, 35th. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I wonder. Have you looked at the odds board? Have a lot of favorites been hitting, or have there been some long shots?
The only real long shots I can recall on LIV. What do you mean long shot? 50-1 or more?
Yeah, I guess 50-1 is a long shot.
So Brendan Steele won Australia 100-1, but Hatton was 12-1. Actually, I can probably I'll rattle off the winners. And I'll tell you what their estimated odds were. So Joaquin Niemann was 12-1 in Mayakoba. DJ was 15-1 at Vegas. Neiman was 10-1 in Jeddah. Abe Answer was 25-1 in Hong Kong. Dean Burmester was 30-1 in Miami. Steele was the long shot in Adelaide. Singapore was Brooks at 20-1. Carlos Ortiz was 40-1, 35-1, and Hat was 11-1. So it's mostly you're looking at under 50-1, probably even more under 40-1. So you're basically looking at, you're stopping at about, Mark Leishman probably.
Munoz is intriguing at 40.
Yeah, Munoz played pretty well in Houston. I had a bet on him. It was actually one of the only, because I took a bunch of shots and some long shots, and he was really the only one in the mix. He's been playing, pretty good, at least relatively recently, at least beating the field. He gained 2.8 strokes in Singapore, 1.9 in Houston, 6 in Nashville.
Yeah, seventh in Nashville, 4th here last year.
Yeah.
I mean, his recent form's not bad. Like,
It's not bad. And
40 to
I
1.
think he actually finished what, top 10 at in Valderrama last year.
He finished 4th.
Yeah. So you know what? I mean, top 10 market for him. Plus 225, plus 210, 40 to 1 for the outright. It's not bad.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
So let's talk about the teams. The
Okay.
team odds for a second.
Sure.
So this is kind of just looking through this this is probably where I feel most confident this week. Because if you look at the team results from Andalucia or wherever, whatever, the teams were different.
Mhm.
So looking at the odd, like looking at the results from last year, you kind of gotta look at it based on the teams this year.
Yeah.
And looking at the leaderboard from last year, I think there's a lot of value on the Fireballs.
So I would probably
And
agree.
it's the hometown team. Like you get the narrative street there. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, it might be chalky, but fourth
I mean,
fourth on
what
the
I don't have the odds pulled up. What are their odds? They're probably inflated because of that narrative.
so they're the 4th team on here. So we have Legion 13 plus 350, Torque plus 400, Crushers plus 550, and Fireballs plus 650.
So that probably is that. I mean, as far as their progression, the odds board, that makes sense. Of cumulative strokes gained this year, they're 5th, but they're just behind Brooks's team. Brooks's team is kind of really hitting the shit. The shit's hitting the fan with them.
Yeah,
So
so they're the next team at 9 to 1.
yeah, so like from a skill set perspective, I mean, obviously David Puig did pretty well here last year. Sergio is a 3-time champion. Abe Answer probably has a good skill set. This place, Chikara definitely does not have the skill set for this place. But, I mean, if those other 3 might be able to carry him the
Wait,
first 3
no,
days.
Chikara's replaced. Oh, no.
Yeah, Chikara's on the Fireballs now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Never mind.
Yeah, so I'm just talking about like a pure skill set for that team. But you got 3 guys who I feel like would be pretty good for this place. Honestly, like Rom and Hatton could probably carry their team like they did. I think they won the national event. They could probably and then like really when it comes down to Rom's team, the wild card has actually been that Caleb Surratt guy. If they get anything from Surratt, they usually are like top 3 in the week. So because
Yeah.
Kieran Vincent's basically dead weight.
Okay.
But Hat and Rom are just so consistently better than most everybody in on LIV this year, other than Neiman and Bryson. I mean, even Bryson's result on LIV haven't been all that good.
I think you got to go Fireballs or Crushers. Like
Okay.
Rom and Hatton are going to, at least Hatton is going to try to get out of there as soon as he can and get to True.
Well, I mean, they all got to be there until Sunday. So it's not like they can just like miss a cut in the, trunk slam on Friday, like the PGA Tour.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
My brain is
that's okay.
PGA Tour.
They got to stay around for the happy hour too afterwards, and the team building event, and signing autographs for the kids and everything. I don't mind that. I think for a team event, I think the Fireball is probably that's pretty good. So.
And then you said the Crushers too. Just
yeah, I mean they've been the best team by far this year. I have all of them, even John Catlin gaining strokes on the field. Howell he's injured. He's been their worst player, but he's still gaining, like 0.3 strokes on the field. So
and then Paul Casey has good course history here. So
Casey's been really solid this year. He's gained 1.2 strokes on the field this year. Just good golf all around. So yeah, I mean, but there's some really bad teams on LIV. Like Kevin Na's team is horrible. Like 3 of his guys might get relegated. the entire Majestics, although Stenson, Westwood, and Poulter can't get relegated because they're captains, but they've been way worse than Horsfield, and Horsfield's probably going to get relegated. Yeah, it's
well. Okay, let me ask you this last question.
Sure.
The week this tournament was last year was the week before the Open as well, right?
It was.
So, and Brooks and Bryson got second and third. So my thinking probably isn't very logical here.
Yeah, I think the cream's going to rise to the top of this at this one.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Well, that's it. I don't have anything else. Cameron, do you have anything else?
Nope. Tune into the Scottish Open show right after this. Capper's trying to figure out StreamYard. We got to help the old man out.
Yes, we do. The boomer can't figure out technology right now. I can't believe we went an hour on a LIV podcast. I need
that was really good. I learned a lot.
Thank you. Listen, you can squeeze out an hour talking about this stupid golf league sometimes, and we managed to do it. So
I don't know. I think we're kind of ahead of the curve here. I think more people are going to start talking about it sooner or later.
I think they're going to have to. I don't think based on the stuff that's coming out from the rumor mill and the quotes, does not sound like this thing's going to go away, at least for another year.
Nope.
Maybe this thing just even just coexists and they can just kind of go back and forth. I don't know. It
sounds like these players keep winning major championships every year. Like,
yeah, and the players are going to figure out too that even though they're getting this pool of equity, they have to wait a certain amount of years. And you're probably going to get some guys saying, "Wait, why wait 10 years, 15 years to get my payday when I just get paid now?" And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens next offseason as far as getting more talent. Who knows? But I don't think this thing is, for better or worse, I don't think this thing is going to go away anytime soon. So
yeah, did I ever tell you? I talked when I was walking the course with Carson's wife. She said she asked like a couple players, and a lot of the players that, like younger players that are winning on tour now, I don't think they ever got reached out to back when this thing started up. No. Like I can confirm that, like Akshay didn't get reached out to, but his fiance said that he definitely would have gone. Like,
yeah. So I mean, why fight for scraps on the lower end of the PGA Tour or even the Korn Ferry Tour when you can get probably, they probably would have offered him maybe $2 to $5 million just to go.
Yeah, so. I mean, I don't know if he does it now that he's won twice. But...
Probably not, but never know.
Yeah. All right.
So, all right. Well, thank you for watching and listening. Make sure you subscribe to the Golf Gambling Podcast on Spotify or Apple, or wherever you download podcasts. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you're not only watching, you're watching this on Twitter, but this video will be on YouTube on our channel later. Go subscribe to that. We have a lot of free content there. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. We're putting a lot of good content up there as well. And with that, good luck with your LIV bets. We will talk to you next at the Scottish Open podcast in about, 10 minutes or so. Stay tuned.